with tech. Please note that we've turned off all attendees' microphones and cameras for this session, but feel free to use the Q&A area to put your questions in, and you'll find that down in your right-hand corner under the activities icon. And you can also use the chat feature. So this session is being recorded and it will be available later out on the conference website if you would like to review it or share it with others in your organization. So at this time, it's my pleasure to welcome Dan and turn it over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Terry, and hello, everybody, and welcome to our session for today, Exit Tickets with Tech. First things first, I did put the link to this slideshow. It has some links and some pictures and stuff there for you. I just put that link in the chat there for you. You can also get to this slideshow from the short link I have at the top of the screen there, bit.ly/NEO lowercase exit, and that will get you this whole slideshow as well. And with that said, let's go ahead and jump in. So welcome again, everybody. Thanks so much for coming to my SPARCC session for today. My name's Dan. I'm the Tech Integration Specialist at NeoNet. There's my email, dneeson@neonet.org. So if you have any questions or you think of something down the line, always feel free to shoot me an email. And I am the Tech Integration Specialist at NeoNet. So if you are a NeoNet member school, I'm always happy to do technology integration ed tech training for you. So always feel free to reach out. And with that said, let's go ahead and look at our to-do list for today. So of course, this session is all about tech tools that can help us kind of optimize exit tickets, whether it's distributing them, collecting them, grading them, analyzing them, all that sort of stuff. And so today's session will just look at 4 of my top picks for tech tools that can really help us do some exit tickets. So we'll look at using Google Forms for exit tickets. I'm sure you probably use Google Forms here or there, or you may use it a lot. And we can use them specifically for exit tickets, and I'll show you what that can look like in just a minute. But we also have outside Google tools. So we also have quizzes, clickers, and Nearpod that we'll take a peek at here in our hour together as well. First thing I like to ask you guys, and you can just answer this right in the chat, what's the point of an exit ticket? This is an instructional strategy that has been around forever. What's the point of it? Why do an exit ticket? Go ahead and drop that into the chat. What's the point of an exit ticket? Let's see, Kelly says check for understanding. Someone else says it's a good formative assessment. Someone else said make sure students have understanding. Formative assessments here. A quick assessment. Let's see, Wendy says check your students learning the fun way. Interesting. It's as opposed to the unfun way, I'm assuming, of like the formal end of unit test. Teresa has a good one. To know how to proceed the next day. That's a great answer too. Gloria says participation. That's true too. Absolutely. Stacy says guide the next lesson, inform future instruction. Absolutely. So like I said, exit tickets have been around for a long time, and depending on how you do them, you could be left with like a lot of extra work to figure out what to proceed with the next day, like some of you guys said. Or the point of doing that quick assessment is, well, do enough kids get the content that we are talking about, or do we need to do some reteaching, or is it a specific group of students? And so I just made my own list here, and I think we had a lot of overlap here. But yeah, check for general understandings. Do I need to reteach something? Are specific students understanding? So you may have those target students in mind that fall behind more easily, and so we can have those exit tickets really inform us of that. And of course, we can also gather data over multiple lessons, over multiple days. So sometimes, though, and a lot of the time, when we are doing like this stuff here for exit tickets, that's a lot of information that we have to analyze, but we still have to actually gather up all that information in the first place, right? So traditionally, if you do it with like some sort of exit ticket, just informally, just through a discussion or even like through a pencil paper sort of thing, you're still going to not have a super great idea of every kid's position. And so making these like judgment calls for, do I need to reteach, or are those specific students understanding, or trying to see that growth? That's going to be harder to see if, you know, you have to spend a lot of the time analyzing, going over and grading papers first. And so that's where our tech tools can come in to kind of help automate some of that stuff and give us some good visual information. So our first tool that we'll look at here is Google Forms. Now, I'm assuming most of you guys have probably used Google Forms here or there, or a lot. And you might use them for various different things. You might use them for exit tickets already, or maybe you just use them for, you know, end of, you know, like unit quizzes or something like that, or homework. But the nice thing about Forms is it's a great way to auto grade exit tickets and have scores go right to your Google Classroom gradebook. So that takes out a huge chunk of time that you don't have to mess around with. So then that time can be used to do that planning, to target those specific students, to go and look at their, you know, their past performance over the past few weeks and go, yeah, okay, well, he does need some more help. His scores have not improved yet. Or you can see, well, a lot of kids aren't getting this content point, so I do need to do some planning for tomorrow and do some reteaching. And like I said, we can also gather longer term data. You can also schedule assignment, of course, with a form in Google Classroom, just have it open at a specific time, and that can save you a little bit of time in class as well. So you don't have to go through the hassle of either kids doing activities early before you meant to do them, or having to worry about students missing out like where to go and what activities they're supposed to do. So that can just kind of save you some like logistical time there. If you organize, if you do Google Forms a lot, it's important to, you know, stay organized, have a clear idea of where all your forms are going to be. So what I would recommend is creating just a whole standalone exit ticket folder in Google Drive, and then just do subfolders inside of that, so you can, you know, organize that stuff for future classes and make it easier to find, you know, your different courses. And so I'll just show you a quick little glance of what that might look like here. And so I'm just going to hop into my drive real quick. And as you can see, I have a folder in here already called exit tickets. So it's just a folder just like any other. And then inside of it, I just have a unit folder for each of my, you know, first few units. And inside of that, I even have, maybe if I have like, you know, four sections of the same class, so 4 periods. And so I could have everything kind of separated out that way. So inside of this one here, so I'm inside of my exit tickets folder, inside of my unit 1 like chapter, and then I go into my first period class, and then here are my exit tickets all live in one easy to find place. Now if you do that, one, they're going to be easier to find, and you could also make like some duplicates, and that way you can kind of keep things separate if you like as well. So if I hop back over here, in this example, I just kind of named them generically here. I just have, you know, exit ticket, first period, number 1, number 2, number 3. If I go back and go to like second period, I have just copies of those exact same Google Forms. That way they're separate files from the original exit ticket. So there's no like sharing that students can do. If you have like some kids early in the day and they get, you know, their exit ticket, technically they could share like the link over to a friend who doesn't actually, you know, see you until the afternoon or something. But if it's a whole separate file, they could still do it technically, but their name would show up in the wrong one, so you'd know something was going on. So all you have to do to make a copy of a exit ticket in a form is you can just go into any one of them. So I'll just open up this first one here. And all you have to do is go into our little 3 dots way up in the top right corner. And the very first button there is make a copy. And then I can rename it to whatever I like. So maybe I'll say I'll call this exit ticket, fourth period, number 1. I can move it into a different folder. I want to put it into my fourth period folder. There we go. And hit make a copy. And there we go. So it's a whole separate file. It has all the exact same questions. But again, if kids are trying to be sneaky and trying to like share these activities with their friends who don't see you until later in the day, that's kind of a way to get around it. This is an optional step. You could clearly just keep one giant exit ticket that you just use for the same prep for everybody. But that's just another option that you have. So the next thing to talk about here is using Google Forms to make to be able to look at long-term exit ticket data. And so the way this would work is all the form responses would be fed into the same Google sheet. And that way we could have kind of like a historical like record of however far back you want to go. That just has each page is just a different exit ticket. And then you can go back and look at all this data. And I'll show you real quick how you can kind of combine all that stuff into one spot. Okay, so the idea is you put this, quote unquote, master data sheet in the same folder as those exit tickets. So going back here, I'll show you back here. So here's my Unit 1 exit ticket master document here. And so the benefit of this is, as we can see at the bottom of the screen, I have each of these tabs. So I have exit ticket 1, exit ticket 2, 3 and 4, and so on and so forth. And each one just, of course, is just the results of that exit ticket. And I made a new page at the bottom, a new sheet at the bottom, that gives me some historical data that I can kind of bring everything together. So if I have something set up like this, where I have our student names, I can have an average score that they get on their exit tickets. I could have then their scores for each of those exit tickets. So I see, I have their score from exit ticket number 1, exit ticket number 2 and 3, and so on and so forth. And so the way to make this is we would use a super simple formula in Google Sheets. It's not like one of those other formulas. If you're familiar with Google Sheets, a lot of the times the formulas are kind of confusing. You have to like name it the right thing. With this one, it's pretty easy, relatively easy to do, depending on your Google Sheets comfortability. So what we do is, you know what, I'll just make a new tab at the bottom here, and I'm just going to remake this thing here. And let me do, here we go. And so this one will be our new, I'll just call this new master summary. Okay. And so what I want to do is I want to have my students' names up here. So it's always a good idea to, across that first row, give your each column a title. So I'll have my student's name. Then maybe I want to see their exit ticket number 1 score. Okay, and so on and so forth. So I'll have exit ticket 2. Oops. Exit 3. And then maybe after that, I want to see their average as well. And so those are kind of like our different categories. Of course, you can make them whatever you'd like. So in this case here, the point of all this is I want to see some long-term exit ticket data. Maybe I'm looking for growth. I'm looking for trends. Maybe I'm trying to see if some students are improving. Maybe if I'm trying to see is the whole class understanding. And then from there, we just need to start filling in, all the actual, data that's going to be in here. And again, we don't have to like sit here and type all this stuff. Instead, we're going to use a super simple formula. We just start in the first cell. We type an equal sign. Then, without clicking anything else, we're going to go down to the bottom of the page here and go to whichever tab at the bottom that we want to pull from. So for me, I'll just pull from the first exit ticket page. And so I want to have the students' names or email addresses here. Okay. And so here we go. I have my student's name there. And I can just go ahead and hit enter. And just like that, it brings it over. Let me go a little bit bigger. So it brings over their email address or name, whatever you want to do. And then I can click and drag our little fill-in pull-down thing. So you hover your mouse into the bottom right corner of that cell until it changes into like a little black cross. And we just click and drag it down to fill out the rest of that series. And it brings over the rest of the students' names or emails or whatever. Then we just do the exact same thing for the exit ticket scores. So when you do an exit ticket or quiz, any quiz with Google Forms, it's always going to give you a score over here. Okay, it may give it to you as a number initially. You can change that by changing up the formatting. So if we highlight that that column, we can change the formatting under these little buttons over here. So like for me, I had mine as a percentage. I think I could probably change it back to the original. I'm not sure if I can go back to the original or not. Yeah, whatever. So you can do a percentage. And then so what we can do is just pull that stuff over to our summary tab, just like we did for the names. So let's go back over here to our new master summary here. Click in the destination where I want that first one to be. Hit the equal sign. We're going to come back over. And now I'm going to grab the scores, just that first one. You only have to click on the first one. And then just hit enter. And that's going to fill in that score. And then again, we just do a little drag down. There we go, brings in those scores. And we'll do the same thing for exit ticket 2. Hit the equal sign, head over to that tab. So now we're on exit ticket number 2 here. Click on that first cell where that score is at. Hit enter, do the little drag down. Okay, and just like that, we can start having all this information start to fill in, and we can see it in one place where we have like a nice little summary of all this exit ticket data. If you wanted to go further and do like an average, we can do that as well. So a nice easy way to do that is if we highlight, let's do it here, highlight the calculations that we want to make here. So like it's going to calculate the average of these two scores. We can highlight them. And if we go down to the very bottom right and click on the little explore button, it's going to give us some suggested formulas. And one of the most popular ones is average. And that's exactly what we want to bring it over. So we're going to drag this on over and drop it right onto the spot under average. And that'll calculate the average for me. And I can go ahead and drag it on down just like we did before with that little pull down trick. And there we go. It calculates our averages for us. All right, let me check the chat here. Let's see. Stacy says, when Google Forms exports data, will it always export it in alphabetical order according to column A? I'm assuming you mean like from like from the Google form when people submit. It's not alphabetical order. It goes by time, so by a timestamp, so whoever did it first. If you do want to sort them, you absolutely can. It behaves just like sorting a regular Google sheet. So you can freeze the top row, which I think happens automatically. And then we can just right-click on top of the column that we want to sort by, right-click on top of it, and we can sort it alphabetically or reverse alphabetically. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. And then for the last thing here, I'll just kind of put in just some example numbers in here. So if I have, maybe this kid got, 80%, they got 75%, maybe they got 50%, and they got 50% as well. Okay. The last kind of point that I had on my one that I had beforehand is I had some of this like pink stuff show up here. And so this is conditional formatting where we can make a certain color pop up if students aren't doing well, or if they are doing well. And so let's say I want to set up something here so I can have a quick little glance. If a kid gets below 80% or less, let's say they get 80% or less on one of their exit tickets, I want it to light up so I can see it easier. Okay. And so what we want to do is we'll highlight whatever range of data that we want this to apply to. In this case, this is just my exit ticket scores. And we're going to turn on conditional formatting. So we're going to go up to the Format tab at the top here. And then towards the bottom, we have conditional formatting. And this little side piece shows up over here. And this lets us set up the rules for what we're going to do. So don't be thrown off by this term, conditional formatting. If we just break apart the two words real quick, so condition just means there's some certain circumstances that are happening. In our case here, the condition would be something is less than 80% score. Then formatting, all that means is like the color of the cell or the color of the text, or if it's bold or underlined. That's all that formatting is. So if we put those two together under some certain condition, we'll change the formatting. That's all that means. So in our case here, again, I want to set up some formatting, some conditional formatting for if a kid gets 80% or less on an exit ticket, I want it to like light up that cell pink. So it's nice and easy to see. Okay. And so I already have it highlighted, the range of cells I want highlighted. So that's what this first box here is. That's already done. Then we look down to format rules, and then we have format cells if. So we have all these like different conditions, all these different circumstances. And the one we're going to use for our purposes here is, we'll scroll down a little bit, is I'm going to look for the one called less than or equal to. And I want it to be, again, anything that's less than or equal to 80%. Since this is percentages, I would have to hit 0.8 because it's coming as a percentage. So I'll hit 0.8. And you'll notice it changed up the colors already, so there's like fewer green ones. And then maybe I'll change up the color here, so maybe I'll make it like this pink color. It's nice and easy to see. And hey, there we go. So just like that, I can have a lot more visual data just for myself, so I can see, okay, well, exit ticket 3 did not go well for most students. Okay, so most kids got, did not do well on exit ticket 3. I can see Andrew at a quick glance got 0% on exit ticket 1. So something little simple thing like that can help out a lot for visualizing the data that you're looking at and helping you decide, like we were talking about earlier, what do I need to reteach? Or do I need to group students differently? Or do I need to do a little one-on-one with some students while other kids are doing like some group work? Okay, so that's what I was talking about with this like longer term exit ticket data in Google Forms. Okay, and again, you have this option here to create another tab that serves as an overview. So like just like we saw here. Okay, and I have this example link there for you on slide 8 if you want to look at it later. All right, changing gears here over to outside of the Google world. Here is quizzes. A show of hands, or you can hit the little hands up button, or you can just say yes in the chat. Has anybody used quizzes before in class? Just got a couple yeses, a couple nos. This is such an awesome tool. I always highly recommend it. It's great for any subject area, any grade level. It is a great way to do exit tickets, and honestly, any sort of formative or summative assessment. Honestly, it's really, really great. So I'll give you guys kind of a brief overview of quizzes. So Quizzes is a website that is free to use. There's a paid version, but honestly, you really don't need to use the paid version. It has a huge library of pre-made activities from other teachers. All of them are free to use, and you can edit whichever ones that you find. So you can search for whatever topic that you like. Chances are you're going to find multiple pre-made quizzes on there, and you don't have to use what that other teacher made exactly. You can go in there and edit and change whatever questions that you like. And for going back to our original purpose for today, teachers can easily find exit tickets that match their needs, or at least most of their needs. And again, you can edit a few questions if you need to. And you also have the option to run quizzes synchronously or asynchronously. So just between those two terms here synchronously all together. You could do that just at the end of a traditional class period as a good way to wrap up a lesson. Again, give us all that good data, informative data like we were talking about at the beginning. You can also do it asynchronously as like a homework sort of thing, where if you have students read an article or part of a chapter, or they have a video to watch, the exit ticket for with quizzes here could be used to double check their knowledge on the reading or the video or whatever it was. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into quizzes and give it a try here. And I'm going to jump in here, and I hope, do I have any Star Wars fans in here? That's going to be my question. I'm a big Star Wars nerd, so I'm going to make you guys do a Star Wars quiz for me. Where are my Star Wars fans at? So I'm going to have you guys. All right, there we go. I got a couple. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start this quiz game here. And it's very similar. Let me turn that down. It's very similar to Kahoot, if you've used that before. It's like a live quiz game, but you still are going to get a whole bunch of data on the back end. You can also change up the settings to make it like less gamified. That's kind of beyond our scope for today, but it's a really awesome tool. All right, so we'll go ahead and drop a link in the chat for you guys here. So the link I'm put into the chat right now, go ahead and give a click on that link, and that'll pop you into our Star Wars quiz game here. And this will take just a few minutes. And as you guys hop in, you'll see back on my screen, you'll see people's names pop in. And we'll go ahead and get started here in just a second. But the cool thing about this tool, beyond the stuff I already talked about, is it's going to give us a whole bunch of report data on the back end, and it's nice and very visually easy to tell where the pain points are, what questions that you have. So you'll see what I mean in just a minute. All right, so we're going to go ahead and hop in. You can still join after I start. Okay, and you are off to the races. And we'll try to finish this in, let's try to do like less than 5 minutes. I'll set a timer on my end over here, just so we're rolling through our session here. And answer them as best you can. And if you're watching this as a recording, I'll just kind of do a little narration here. You'll notice on my screen on the teacher's view, you're going to see a live total of percent accuracy of the whole class. You'll see a leaderboard of the students that are doing the best. And you can also flip over to the questions tab here and do a question by question breakdown of how well each student does on each question. And so again, if you're looking at some common, some common pain points or common content that is really struggling, this is where you can really help focus it down and help yourself understand, okay, kids are good with this content point. It's this other content point that they're missing. So we need to really hammer that home. And you can really clarify that part. And do your best to kind of finish up here in the next 2 minutes. Don't worry if you are a Star Wars noob, that's totally fine. Just answer best you can. Wild guesses are totally acceptable. Let's see. Chris Lee in the chat says, do you have to pay for certain levels of data? No. So all the reports, I'll show you guys in a second. So the reports are just are free to look at. And it breaks it down by individual student, by individual question. Then you can view all that stuff in like one spot. I've never paid for quizzes. Like I said at the beginning, it's an awesome tool to use for free. You get some nice extra bells and whistles in the paid version, of course. But yeah, for free, this is an awesome tool. All right, 1 minute left, so try to finish up the next minute. All right, it looks like pretty much everybody's done here. So I'm going to go ahead and so everybody hop back over into the Google Meet with us here. So you'll still be looking at my screen again. And so like I was saying during your quiz time there, you get all this live information in real time. So I can see the leaderboard here. I can see Steve came out on top right above Star Wars kids. Well done, you guys. And it's just a fun gamified way to do things. But the cool thing is you can also look at this questions tab, and this will give you a breakdown for each question, looking at how many people got that one right versus how many wrong. So like the first question, all right, 26 out of 31 people got that one right, so we're pretty good. Maybe on the reports page, I can go and look at those 5 and go target them for a small group activity if I'd like. Next one down, this one's almost 50-50, so maybe I need to hammer home this content point some more. Same one. The next one here is also close to 50-50. Maybe I need to hammer that one home. And so, of course, I can just do that. I can see this one here. So this one's only 9 of the 23. 9 correct. 23 got it incorrect. So I definitely need to do some reteaching or some sort of reinforcement here on that content point. And this is just the live view. So if you do like this in the middle of a lesson, this could also be a formative sort of thing as well. I can then do some reteaching or break students out into groups or whatever. Okay. From here, though, I can go ahead and hit end at the top. And like I was talking about earlier, well, here's the award ceremony here. So first place goes to Steve. Good job. And it's very much gamified. And right when you exit, it'll do the award thing, but it's also going to give you this nice grid of each person and which questions they got right and wrong. And don't worry, we can go back and look at this grid here whenever we'd like. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit exit. And this just takes us back to our quizzes homepage. And over on the left-hand side, we'll just go into reports. And here's our Star Wars one. And this is our report overview. And I can do a breakdown by participants. So again, if I'm targeting a certain student, so I'll just pick on somebody. So I'll pick on Amanda here. So if I click on Amanda, I can see her whole responses here. See how well she did? Okay, she needs to learn more about Jabba the Hutt. Okay. She needs to learn about the Millennium Falcon a little bit more. She needs to learn more about Jar Jar. So things like that. You can have a quick, easy look at an individual student. On the flip side, you can also go by question here at the top, and then just do a lookup by question and have this nice, easily visual data here to know which questions or pain points we need to look at some more. And it has like a response distribution to see how people responded. And so this one's nice, particularly. And so if I do like looking at number 5 here, I can see the response distribution as well. So 26% of people had the right answer. A lot more had it wrong. Even more people thought it was Tatooine. So we need to really clarify what Tatooine is. It's a very different thing than Bespin, right? So again, you can click on one of these as well, kind of see some more detailed information as well. So if I want to see like how long each person took for that question, etc. Okay, so again, all this stuff is just stored on the website. You can come back to it whenever you like. You can also click this overview tab, that same grid that we saw just a minute ago, that we saw at the end of the game. Okay, and again, this is a good way to do some long-term data as well. Because imagine if I went up here and did a little print. So maybe I'll do, we'll do a question summary. I can print out this summary here for myself. And then maybe the next day or a couple days later, after I do some reteaching, I could use this exact same exit ticket quiz again, print out or just look at the results, the report from that session, and compare. Look how many students improved. Look at how many less red boxes we have here. So that's another good way to track some growth, get some good data, and know is it individual students that are having problems that I just need to do smaller interventions for, or is it the original lesson really didn't work that well and I just need to do a whole reteach? That can give you some good information. Okay. Let's see. Mr. Hernandez says, how does quizzes compare with Kahoot? Honestly, I've totally replaced, not to like, quizzes doesn't pay me or anything, but quizzes has kind of totally replaced Kahoot for me. I just like it so much. Not to mention the whole pre-made library thing. I didn't even show you that. So if you go to the Explore section over on the left-hand side, you can just search for whatever you want. So, if you're searching for integers, just do a search for any sort of keyword and 70,000 results came up, and any one that you find, you can edit and use it with your students. So if you want to come in here, change a few questions around, you can absolutely do that. All right. So again, a few other things here for using quizzes. So when you find or make a quiz, you can begin live as a group, like I was talking about, so like synchronously, or assign it as homework for students to do independently. Again, that could like accompany like a reading or a video. And again, exit tickets can be done anonymously, or you can force students to have to sign in with their Google accounts as well. So if you want to take this for points, force them to sign in, and then you can take it for points. If you just want some exit ticket data to help you understand, do I need to do some reteaching, that sort of thing, then you can just have them do anonymously. Okay. A few other notes here. So if you do what they call a classic live quiz, you'll have the option to set the quiz to test mode, as they call it. So students are required to sign in. It's like kind of like the more serious, like less gamified version. So students are required to sign in. They're limited to one attempt, and they don't see any of the answers, like if they're right or wrong during the quiz. So it's kind of more of like a test. Okay, and then we saw our reports from where to find those. And so now let's switch over to another one of my favorite tools. This one honestly probably is like my top favorite, honestly. It's awesome. Has anybody used Nearpod? So use the little hands up symbol thing in Google Meet, or you can just type yes. Has anybody used Nearpod before? Kind of a mix of yeses and nos, lots of nos though. Awesome. So I always like sharing this one because it's just such an awesome tool. This one again also has a paid and a free version. The free version is really good. It just kind of limits you in space for how many activities you can like have saved. So it's something to consider. But here's the kind of the gist of it here. So this site allows you to create interactive lessons with lots of different like types of questions. There's also a huge pre-made library. Like they partner with like different like educational organizations to make a lot of content, and they make a lot of their own. So you'll have stuff from like PBS and stuff from like the National Archives and all like these other like organizations. And there's also a lot of stuff that they just have their own like content makers that they have. And specifically, again, for our purposes for doing exit tickets, we can create an exit ticket at the end of a whole Nearpod lesson, or we can just do a standalone exit ticket. So in Nearpod, the way this works is, if you're familiar with Pear Deck, it's very similar, kind of the same idea. It's the whole idea of like adding interactivity to a regular slideshow. And the whole idea is at the end of that session, we can have a exit ticket that kind of summarizes everything that we covered in that lecture or note section. So here's kind of the gist of it. So after creating an activity, you can post the link directly to Google Classroom so students can hop in and join you. You can also decide if the activity will be done all together or individually. So again, it can be synchronously or asynchronously. And just like we saw over in quizzes, you're left with a report afterwards that details what each student did. It gives you some nice like graphs and stuff. Okay, so I have this little exit ticket here for you guys. I'll also drop this in the chat here for you. So let's say, just pretend with me here. Let's say we were doing, I'll just put my name here. Let's say we were just did a lesson on talking about what the equinoxes and the solstices are. Okay, and this is just a real quick matching pairs activity. And so for you guys here, I'm going to go ahead and just copy this link here. There you go. So that link I just put in the chat there for you. We'll take you over to this little matching pairs activity. So let's just pretend that we just did a lesson on the differences between the different equinoxes and solstices and what each one is. And so this is just a very simple activity, just a simple matching pairs activity. And the goal is to match pairs as quickly as you can with as few mistakes as you can. And so I'm going to hop in here, and everybody go ahead and hop in there too. And it'll ask you for your name. You can just type in your name and just match those pairs together. And so I'll do the same thing on my end here. So let's see, longest day of the year is that one. Marks the end of winter. Shortest day. And there we go. Okay. And then once you're done with your matching pairs, just hop on back to the Google Meet again. I'll give you guys like another 30 seconds to finish that matching pairs activity. And once you hop back into the Google Meet, you should see me on the home page of Nearpod here. All right. So back here in our Google Meet, you should be looking at my Nearpod page. And so just like we had over in quizzes, we get a report from the activities that our students do here in Nearpod. And so that activity that I had you guys do was real quick. It was just a little matching pairs activity, super simple, but a nice way to gather some quick information about that topic. And so over here on the left-hand side, we can just go into reports. And then from in here, we'll have our different activities that we've done. So I'm going to go into my solstices and equinox thing here. And it's probably this one, I guess. Okay. And so we're going to get all this information here for each person. So we're going to be able to look at each person's score, and it's all in one spot. And so we can see if they finished or not, what percentage that they had. If we go into activity reports here, it gives us some more detailed information. It gives us the number of tries as well. So if I look at my own here, so I have Dan, there's number of matches is the total matches that are required to pass the thing, and the total number of tries. So if those are equal, that means they got all of them right on the first try. If I go down, not to pick on Denise here, but Denise had 7 tries, but she eventually got all 4 matches. Great. And I can see all this information again in one spot, where I can see also maybe quickly just look at the check marks too, see who finished, see who didn't, and that's an easy way to look. So maybe if I'm looking for like a high number, I think I can sort these as well. I can also sort by the number of tries up here, so the biggest numbers show up first. So maybe Teresa, maybe she needs a little refresher. I need to do some reteaching with maybe Teresa, Lisa, and Denise. Maybe we'll get together as a small group and we'll review the differences between the solstices and the equinoxes, and that way I can just do that with those three, and all the other kids here, so everybody else who got it all right on the first try, or basically got it right on the first try, they don't have to sit there and be taught something that they already know. Okay, and again, I'll show you guys a couple other things. I still have a little bit of time. A couple other cool things here in Nearpod. That one activity here it is in my library over here. The solstices and equinoxes thing, that was one of the pre-made things that is just made by Nearpod. To find anything, you just go over to the left-hand side and go into Nearpod library. And you just search for whatever you like, or you can just start kind of scrolling through and see whatever kind of piques your interest. As you can see, if I kind of scroll down, you'll see some featured lessons. Across the top, there's a few like filters you can do. So you can filter out by grade, subject. You can even do content types. There's even different publishers as well. So across the top here, so like iCivics, and there's like drag and drop ones. You can see a bunch of different stuff in here. Okay. Anything that you find in here is free to use. So if I want to go in here and maybe I'll do, maybe I want to go into science. And maybe I'll even filter out by grade. So maybe I'll do like, 6th grade. And I'll go and look through and kind of browse through all these different activities in here. Some of them are full lessons that are like include like instructional, like lecture style slides with some different interactive elements kind of sprinkled throughout. Some are short activities like we just did together there. And some are interactive videos like this first one here, where it's, if you're familiar with Edpuzzle, it's the same exact thing. So it's a video that students can watch. I'll just turn the volume down just so you don't hear anything. Watch the video, and whatever instructions going on, at a certain point, the video is going to automatically pause and it'll ask a question. Then students can respond to that question and keep watching the video. Okay, that's also another good way to just check for understanding throughout a video. Okay, if you have any of your own slideshows that you want to amplify a bit, put in some of those interactive elements, have an exit ticket, some more interactivity kind of built right in. Here's one that I kind of fiddled with here. I was a high school social studies teacher, and this is the slideshow I used for teaching World War I. It's like super long. It like covers that whole unit. It's like 80 slides. Of course, I want to make it more interactive. And so from this page here, you can upload your own. I'll go down to the bottom here. You can upload your own files, and it could be anything from your computer, from your Google Drive, or from Dropbox or OneDrive. You can also just search for images with that Google search. It can pretty much take most like presentation file types, of whether it's a picture or a PDF or a PowerPoint. You can just drop them right in, and each slide will just be dropped right in here, and then you can start adding in whatever interactive like elements that you like. And then again, right at the end, maybe if I want to have a hit add new, they have different sorts of activities in here at the top. And maybe I just want to have a traditional just multiple choice quiz right at the end. I can bring in a quiz. And I just start asking my questions in here, make my, mark my answers as correct here with those little check marks there. And again, you're going to get all this information in a report when you're done. And again, that gives you a lot of good information. And again, you don't have to sit there and grade a whole bunch of papers and look through all that stuff and try to figure out, do I need to reteach this? Is it just this kid that's having the problem, or is it a bigger problem that everybody's not getting it? So again, this is a good way to kind of bring all that stuff together. Okay. Lots of information for Nearpod. Nearpod is like a super big topic. It's an awesome tool. we barely scratched the surface for. But I'll pause right here for any questions for anything that we've talked about so far. You doing good? All right. So our last tool. Oh, I spoke too soon. Let's see. Nathan says I've used Nearpod before, but kind of left it. What's the difference between the paid and the free version? Basically, the paid version for Nearpod just gives you more space. So if I hop back here, I'll just show you. I do have the paid version of Nearpod, the gold, as they call it. It comes down to how much space you get for all of the activities that you have. Like in the gold version, the paid version that I have here, you get 1 gig worth of space. In the free version, I think you get like 100 megabytes or something like that. You just get a lot less space, so you won't be able to save as many activities in here. That's the difference, the main difference. All right. All right, so now our last tool of the day here is Plickers. And so this is a really cool one as well. And so this is a way to ask multiple choice or true false questions and have students answer with these like little paper QR codes. So if you're looking at my webcam here, I have this little paper QR code thing I'm holding up. And so the way this works is you just print out a bunch of these. I have a bunch of them like printed out here. And you just give one of these to each kid. And depending on how they hold it, that's how they respond. So it's kind of hard to see. I'll try to hold it up here. Let me do this, actually. Well, no, let me do this. This would make more sense. So each of these little cards here, zoom in. Each of these little cards is a special kind of QR code that, depending on how the student holds it, just whether it's like straight up this way or if they twist it around, like just rotating it in 90-degree increments, that's going to be how they are responding to the question. As you can see, it has a little B, A, C, D there. And so that's how whatever one they're holding upwards is how they respond. And so you just give one of these to each student and they just hold them up. When you ask the question with your smartphone or with an iPad, you can do it uses your camera to quickly scan those QR codes, and it marks all those responses all at once. The nice thing is all this stuff is free. There is a paid version of Plickers. Again, you got a few extra bells and whistles, but you can totally get away with a free version here. But it is a really cool way to bring in some technology and some auto grading features, especially for a non-one-to-one classroom or a classroom with younger kids too. So if you teach the younger grades, that's a nice way to kind of do some exit tickets in a way that, again, saves you some time with auto grading, but kids aren't stuck on their computer and easily getting distracted. Okay, so again, these cards are free to print out. I have the link there for you to get them. And the way this works is I'll head over to Plickers. And so let me go ahead and sign in. And it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. You just make a multiple choice / true false quiz. And let me hop in here. And you simply just display a quiz, or the question rather, on the board, over the projector, or if you have a smart board, whatever. And then so you ask a question. So like in this case here, so 5 plus 8, and then in the middle, and then 9 minus 4, and which symbol belongs in the blank in the middle. And so kids do greater than, less than, or equal to. And they would hold up their cards, again, depending on how they want to respond. You would get all this information in a graph at the bottom that would show up here. It's kind of easier to do this in person, of course. But this would give us a nice little chart that we can look at in real time. And so if I want to ask a question, instantly get some feedback from every student. Again, I can look at all the information all at once. Okay. And then we can also, you can also pull in your roster of students from Google Classroom as well. The benefit of that is you can actually attach students to specific cards. So if you did want to take like points for this, you could like have it where students are attached to each individual card. The cards are a little bit different. The code on each one does look a little bit different. Each one is unique. So you could tag them like to a specific card, and that way you can like track individual students. And again, same thing over here on the left-hand side. We can also get reports, and I can see all this information for how people responded as well. Okay. Again, we don't have enough time to do a full like deep dive here into Plickers, but it's definitely worth checking out. Last thing I'll leave you guys here with is just a quick little video of Plickers in action in an elementary school, and I'll just show you guys what this looks like.
Divided by 4 equals, write it on your whiteboard, remember we do PEMDAS, parentheses, multiplication, division, adding, subtracting. Think. Here I go. Yes. Wow. Not bad.
All right. So as we can see there, the teacher, she was actually combining them with some like dry erase boards for the kids to work out the math problem. And then she just quickly scanned with her phone each of these QR codes that the students held out. And then we saw right at the end, I'll try to bring that little point up here. There we go. It gave us that nice little chart there where she could easily see the grade distribution. Most of the kids got, presumably that's the right answer. And that gives us, one or two kids maybe that got the answer wrong. And again, maybe she'll target those couple kids or just do that quick little bit of reteaching or reminding from there. All right. So in summary, coming down to the end here, everybody, we looked at 4 different tools here. So different ones have different pros and cons. So I'll kind of run through a little quick summary of the 4. You can choose whichever one floats your boat the most. If you want to play around and experiment with them, please do. Question in the chat here: are students able to scan their own code on their own device so they can move through at their own speed? No. So the app is only on the teacher's phone. If the student has the Plickers app on their phone, they would have to set up their own questions to do it. So that's not how it works. So here we go. In summary here, so Google Forms, the kind of the pros and cons here. So the great thing about it, of course, we can auto grade. We can send scores right from the Google Classroom gradebook, right from the form to the Google Classroom gradebook, which is cool. A plus or minus is, depending on your skills with Sheets, is you can view all your data in a Google Sheet, which is awesome. But you kind of have to be, somewhat comfortable with Sheets to do that. Another minus potentially is it's just more files to keep organized in your Google Drive, which may need some cleaning up in the first place. I know mine does. Next one over is quizzes. So this is where we can auto grade. We can do some pre-made. We have a pre-made library. There's viewable reports. A negative is sending the scores to the Google Classroom gradebook. That's an only paid version thing. So that's a minus there. On Plickers that we just saw, it auto grades as well. It works great for one-to-one classrooms or non-one-to-one classrooms. You also get viewable reports. There is no exporting at all to Google Classroom gradebook. And finally, on the Nearpod side, it also has a great pre-made library, viewable reports, auto grading as well. But there's no exporting scores to Google Classroom. And again, the free version just has some limited space. So if you end up using it a lot, you might run out of space. All right. But hey, there is our to-do list that we started with, everybody. So we looked at Google Forms, quizzes, Plickers, and Nearpod. Lots of different ways to do techie exit tickets that can take some of the burden off of you for distributing and grading and analyzing these things, and really just get down to the point of doing the exit tickets, which is informing our instruction. All right, so that's going to bring us down to the end, everybody. Thanks so much for coming to our SPARCC session for today. If you have any questions, always feel free to shoot me an email, dneeson@neonet.org. If you are a Neonet school with us, one of our member schools, always feel free to check out our website. I have a bunch of tech integration resources on there. And again, you can also get this slideshow. I'll put the link in the chat again there for you. You can get that the slideshow in that link I just put in there, or at bit.ly/neoexit. Thanks so much, everybody.
Dan, thank you for this session today. We appreciate it. And if anybody needs a certificate of attendance, you can get that. I put the link for the conference website in the chat, and you can go there and get your certificate of attendance. Again, thank you for attending today's session, and thank you so much, Dan.
Thanks, guys. Have a good summer.